25 minutes, right? So, all right, so let's have a quick chat. So any wins you'd like to share first? Your end?
Nope.
No? One quick win?
I'm here.
Because, oh, all right, that's great. Different. All right, that's great. That's great. Yeah,
Still
because
breathing.
we have a ton of stuff to share.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So, well, first off, coach session last week. Okay, that was I think the second workshop for the second year. Topic was on confidence. Okay, building confidence, and various exercise. But I think my biggest takeaway has been confidence comes from different places, like past accomplishment. You have achieved something, so you develop confidence for it to repeat again. But also confidence comes from team member, the who's you're working with. Okay, so basically, if you have like very reliable who's you can entrust, then that's a form of confidence as well. Okay, that basically, that certain things can happen because of certain who's you're relying. And for that, kind of, it just came as a realization that this may be the part that's kind of weak and missing now, and something that we might want to build up. So that could potentially means finding better teammates, but also training current team members to be more with better abilities, more better teamworks, things like that. So yeah, just came to me that having the confidence of your team is a great source of confidence for yourself as well, for ourselves as well. Okay, so that's from the coach session. And the other thing was, you probably saw the impact filter has been shooting out. Okay, that's a direct result after the coach session. So yeah, so basically I've been doing this is obviously something to be discussed, but I am seeing it, at least from my perspective, that we might want to take some really radical approach. Okay, in terms of moving forward, because what so far we're working in a certain way, yeah, but it might require a very different way moving forward. So that includes, like motivating, recruiting team members, and possibly moving the current JCF wealth to an open source approach. So that's one, and also open up, integrating with more strategies, things like that. These all require quite a few, I think, developers and development effort. But again, this is something I think we can leverage through now, and also a lot of external resource that's actually available. Okay, so that's, I guess, the second thing. Third win would be great weekend, like trip with family. Okay, with kid, my son Aris was riding probably like 40 minutes, 30-40 minutes one way, so a round trip. It was a whole yesterday, so got a lot of sun tan. Okay, right. So yeah, that's basically the wins. Um, and also the latest bench training. I think that I don't know if you've seen it, but provides some really interesting thinking about thinking exponential for quarter 4. So yeah, I guess that's the approach I'm thinking as well. All right, so those are the wins. Oh, and one more thing, a deep discussion with Iris. I think she wanted me to stay in Taiwan to help care for the kids. So I, basically I decided probably I want to cancel or postpone the PI and the Canada trip till next year. So that's a big change. Okay, but I think that might be saving more credits to the relation accounts with her. So that's another thing. Yeah. All right. So that's my update. I guess any feedbacks or topic to discuss.
And well, the last thing that you said there, I mean, the only thing that you've done is that decision will have an impact on the people at the monastery.
Okay, so what happens is I didn't actually get the, the paid job at the place. It was
You didn't?
so I did not. And oh yeah, I have an
Oh, okay,
update.
then that's fine.
I have an update you on this. If I went, it will have to be like a volunteer thing. Yeah,
That's
and
fine. Don't worry about it.
basically, okay.
I wouldn't have gone.
Which
If it was me and
okay.
you're not getting a paid job, then why bother? Why go as a volunteer? What's the point?
Oh, okay. There could still be other, possibility extending out.
Could be,
Yeah,
could be,
it,
but
that would be
don't live
uncertain.
with
Yeah.
don't talk about could be's, would be's, should be's, if, maybe, but. What's the point? That's not real, is it? They're all kind of hypotheticals that might happen in the future. That if the wind was going in the right direction and everything worked out just fine, then maybe it might happen. Well, great, but it's fantasy land.
All right, that's good feedback.
In reality,
Mhm.
your ex-wife has sat there and said, "I don't want to manage the kids on my own. Don't go." Now, that's not because she wants you to be near. It's because she doesn't
Right.
want to have the extra pressure of dealing with
Right.
the kids perceivably on her own.
Right. Sure.
In a way, though, she shouldn't have divorced you if she didn't want to manage the kids on her own. That's she should have thought about that before she signed the papers, eh? But there you go.
All right. So that's a great insight. Okay. Yeah. So thanks. All right. So
I haven't watched any of the Ben stuff. I haven't touched Ben for 3 weeks now. I just
really?
find him a
Really?
little bit
Okay.
boring. Yeah, it's because it's too
Okay.
repetitive. There's nothing new in there, and it's like
Oh,
I need
okay.
to be stimulated from stuff which is taking me on to developing a thought, not just
Okay.
stagnating in a thought. If you have a pond of water and there's no fresh water coming in, then the water gets stale. It doesn't breathe. So you need the movement of water for the oxygen to move around the body of water to enable it to be healthy. I think I'm reading 2 psychology books at the moment. I'm reading Rockefeller and I'm reading Anti-Fragile, which again is more philosophy than it is economics. But there's 4 very, very, very different ways of looking at things. So, which is interesting because that engages the mind more. I think for us, you and I'm getting a little bit fed up. It's the level of communication is not that great anymore, which is a shame. And yeah, I don't know, Shunyun. It seems to me that there isn't any consistency with some of the things that you're saying, and it's hard because the amount of change. A few weeks ago, maybe a month ago, you were talking about how inspired you were because this guy told you that you were an academic and that you wanted to learn how to be an entrepreneur, and you were really, focused on that. And then another week, you're like, well, let's just change the, I'm going to spend 80% of my time thinking, or whatever it is. It's just very disjointed, and therefore there isn't a level of consistency. I find that difficult to work with. Not impossible, but it's just a challenge. I think, and now that I know more about, or I'm more aware of, and allowed myself to be more aware of, and take a more focused approach with what JCF actually has to achieve and where it's at, it's there's a lot to do, and coming up with ideas which are radical, and the whole open source thing, the DAO thing. It's like, I don't see it. I don't see it right now. I think also what annoyed me, if I'm going to be honest, was that you had an idea, you wrote the impact filter, you posted it to a group of people, mostly I don't know, and then you're saying, well, we're gonna, who wants to be the CEO, the CTO, and the CVO? Well, what if those people come back and somebody says, I want to be the CVO, I want to be the CEO? Where does that leave you and me? Did you think about that? Is that something which is important to you? There wasn't any dialogue between us. You said you might have had an idea, but having an idea and then going off and telling everybody about it without even talking to me about it isn't polite. So it was kind of, it was disruptive in that respect. But, it's the way you are, and that's fine. I haven't got a problem with that per se. That's how it made me feel. And it is an emotion. It's not a logical thing. So emotions are overcome at some point. But I just don't, we sat there in June and said, let's get 1,000 users. That ain't going to happen if nothing happens. And if it doesn't happen, then you're not going to have users. If you don't have users, you won't have money. You're not telling me what you think about the P&L. It's really important that you have profit. If you don't have profit, you don't have a company. Nobody is interested in a loss-making company. Nobody will ever buy a loss-making company. Oh, well, the code is really important. Well, I can write code. I can pay any number of little Indians to write code. There's not. You look at the competitive marketplace in which we sit. You've got guys like BlackRock et al. You've got, you quote Ray Dalio, Warren Buffett. These guys are already playing in the space and they're already delivering to their customers. They already have the infrastructure. They already have the product brand recognition, and they've got the mistakes and the successes, more importantly, to back up everything that they say. They're not operating from scratch. So I also had a chat with my nephew, who's the lawyer in the States, about the whole process of becoming SEC regulated and what that means. And whilst it's not the same as the UK, and so the mechanism is slightly different, which is slightly more, in a way, it's easier, but also fundamentally, to do it right from the outset, you'd probably need to spend about $50,000, which is fine if you've got an investor who understands the market and wants to go ahead and do it, then peanuts really. But you've got to have a business plan which illustrates the fact that you're going to return that 50,000 within a given period of time based upon your users. So I just think, we're just churning around, going around in circles, and changing strategy and going, well, let's go for the whole person all right next to you there. I saw their hat leaning into the frame there.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm sitting on
I thought they were going to lean over and give you a kiss.
Well,
so the thing is, I think there's a lot on, and there needs I just don't see that we're moving forward at all, and changing, and like this whole idea, how we're going to teach. I mean, that whole thing with Josh the other day, I didn't find that particularly impressive. The guy doesn't appear to me to be engaged or intrigued or interested in being a CTO. That's that guy from Colombia who was on AMP. You were asking him, trying to sell it to him. He wasn't interested. The two got Greg and what's his name from in the States. Neither of them were interested enough to be up. So people will come when they want to be a part of it because they believe in what it's achieved and what it can do. I joined you because I believed in what the future could hold. So I've invested because I already have a goal which is already out there in that direction. But we ain't going to realize that if we keep waddling around intermittently. There's two analogies, right, that have been in my mind. One, and I've got to go in a minute. One is because I've got to prepare for this call. One is a butterfly. So the butterfly just flaps from plant to plant, pretty, but it's never in one place at any one time. It just goes from plant to plant. And so the analogy there is in business, if you're like a butterfly, you're not actually achieving anything. You're just bopping from plant to plant. You look nice, but you're not actually achieving anything. The other thing is to go to how we used to fight with guns. I don't know if you know much about your weaponry, but there used to be a gun. You would pull back the flintlock, right? So it's a flint. You pull it back. You would prime it, put powder in there, put powder in the end, put a ball in there. They would ram it down, pull back, aim and fire, right? And then the flint, when you pull the trigger, the flint would come down and spark in a pan, which would ignite some gunpowder, which would then go into the chamber and ignite a massive gunpowder, which would explode the ball. There are two phrases that came out of that process. One is going off half-cocked, and the other is flash in the pan. So what half-cocked means in today is people that start something before they're ready to start. Right? And it means that, and obviously that leads to failure because you haven't completed the necessary preparation to do it properly. And what that is referring to is when you pull back the flint, there's a two-stage process before it's fully cocked, because they have it at half cock. Because obviously, if somebody's walking around with a loaded weapon in a war thing and they pull the trigger by mistake, it only fires the pan. It doesn't fire the whole bullet. But when it's fully cocked, it's fully loaded. It's like taking the safety off of a normal gun, right? And so going off half cocked is when somebody fires off without being ready. What that causes is the gunpowder in the pan to ignite, but not in the actual chamber itself. And that's called a flash in the pan. A flash in the pan is a derogatory term about companies which, or people that are there going, yeah, and then they're gone. Because they're there in a flash and they're gone in a flash. Explosive, really exciting, but there's no substance to them, so they don't last. And that's why 50% of startups fail, because they're flash in the pan, because they haven't thought it through. I'm saying all of this because, again, I've got to go, and it's a bit of a rant, and it's not fair. But if you want to carry on this conversation, if you want to take some time out to think about what I say and come back to me and say, well, I think you're wrong because these are the reasons why. And I'm happy for that, totally happy for that, because I'm not right all the time at all. You know, I know that. It's only an opinion, and it doesn't mean that it's the right opinion, and I'm happy to be wrong. I just don't see it any other way at the moment.
Great. All right. Thank you so much, Mike. I mean, just that alone, the last part you said, that makes you someone successful.
Oh, well, I could do with being a bit more successful. I know that. Also, Shunyun, not in your favor for this morning, I am on an intermittent fast. So I haven't eaten anything since last night. So I haven't had any breakfast. I've only just started drinking some coffee. I've done 45 minutes of yoga and I'm a little bit agitated. So, you know, not enough sleep, not enough food, bit of a grumpy old moany bastard. So I think it's important to say things.
That's perfect.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. I've got to go. And I knew this would happen. But I do, you know, if you want to talk about this more, then I'm open to talking about it more. But I don't think we're moving forward.
Sure.
We're just chasing tails.
Same feeling here. And I have quite a few of alternative opinions for you to consider. But maybe that's next time. So talk to you on Thursday then. Thursday 9 a.m. Would that work?
Yeah, I guess so. I guess so.
Okay.
So
Okay.
as
Yeah.
half a
All
week
right.
goes by and nothing's happened.
Well,
So one of the
well,
reasons why nothing's happening.
well, there's the YC application. There's the possibly open source that's happening, and there's the onboarding of a new CPO. These are all happening. Okay, so
Okay,
yeah.
great. Well, it's lovely to be, it's lovely to be involved in the dialogue, at least for why that's happening. I mean, you're
Right,
just
right.
doing it on your own, shouldn't you?
All
There's
right.
no
So
partnership in that respect.
okay.
Right. I've got to
All
go.
right. All right. Do apologize.
See you
I'll
later.
update you on Thursday then.
All right.
Yeah. Take care.
All
Have a
right.
great
Bye.
yeah. Have a great meeting. Bye bye.